Unexpected reception. Dahlia Winters stared at her phone in horror, the blood draining from her face. Her fingers hovered over the screen as if she could somehow reach inside and pull back the message she'd just sent. The message intended for her roommate Phoebe, not Julian Hayes, the creative director and her new boss of exactly 8 days. I can't with this guy. 2 minutes in his presence and the temperature drops 10 degrees. I swear he looks at my portfolio like I drew it with crayons. Probably hasn't smiled since 2010. How am I supposed to survive 3 months with the Ice King? Her stomach twisted as she watched the 3 dots appear, indicating Julian was typing a response. Dahlia slumped against the wall of the compact supply closet where she'd hidden to vent her frustrations. Bluebird Media was her dream internship, the stepping stone she needed to launch her career in graphic design. And she just torpedoed it with one careless tap on her phone. The response came through, "My office, now." Dahlia took a deep breath, straightened her vintage blazer, and made the longest walk of her life through the open concept office. Creative teams huddled over tablets, programmers tapped away at keyboards, and account managers paced with phones pressed to their ears. Nobody noticed her walking to her professional execution. Julian's office stood apart from the collaborative chaos, glass-walled but somehow imposing. He sat behind a minimalist desk, his dark hair precisely styled, expression unreadable behind steel-rimmed glasses. At 35, he was the youngest creative director in the company's history, known for his exacting standards and brilliant campaigns. "Close the door," he said without looking up from his computer. Dahlia complied, her hands trembling slightly. "Mr. Hayes, I'm so incredibly sorry about that message. It was completely unprofessional, and which part was most accurate?" Julian interrupted, finally looking at her. What? The temperature drop? The crayon comment? Or my apparent inability to smile?" His tone remained even, impossible to read. Dahlia blinked, caught off guard. I suppose the temperature thing. You're very intimidating." Something unexpected happened then. The corner of Julian's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but a crack in the facade. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Tell me why you're here at Bluebird." For 15 minutes, Julian asked pointed questions about her portfolio, her education at the Art Institute, and her career aspirations. Dahlia answered cautiously at first, then with increasing animation as she discussed her passion for visual storytelling and user experience. "The Arbor Way coffee campaign concept," Julian said, pulling up her portfolio on his monitor. "Walk me through your thought process." Dahlia leaned forward, momentarily forgetting her embarrassment. Their previous branding was trapped in the 90s coffee shop aesthetic. "I wanted to connect their sustainable practices with an urban customer base that values both environmental responsibility and sophisticated design." Julian studied the mock-ups, nodding slowly. "It's good. Raw but promising." He turned his screen toward her, showing a major campaign Bluebird was pitching to Luminance Skincare, a luxury brand expanding into the clean beauty market. "We're down a junior designer. The team needs fresh eyes on this by Monday." He assessed her with that penetrating gaze. "Think you can handle it, or would you prefer to send more evaluations of my personality to your roommate?" Dahlia's cheeks flushed, but she recognized the opportunity being offered. "I can handle it." "Good." Julian handed her a tablet with the project files. "I expect your concepts by tomorrow morning." "And Dahlia?" She paused at the door. "Yes?" "For the record, I smiled quite frequently in 2010. As Dahlia returned to her desk, clutching the tablet like a lifeline, she realized her catastrophic mistake might have just become her biggest opportunity. The Ice King, it seemed, had a sense of humor buried somewhere under that frosty exterior. And somehow she'd been given a chance to prove herself, not despite her blunder, but because of it. Shifting perspectives, the Luminance skincare campaign consumed Dahlia's weekend. She'd cancelled plans with Phoebe, ordered takeout twice, and slept a total of 9 hours over 2 days. By Monday morning, she arrived at Bluebird with bloodshot eyes, her portfolio clutched to her chest, and a thundering heartbeat that no amount of coffee could steady. "You look terrible," remarked Olivia Kim, a senior copywriter, as Dahlia set up her presentation in the conference room. Olivia's blunt nature was softened by her genuine smile. "But I'm betting whatever's in that portfolio made the sacrifice worthwhile. I hope so." Dahlia straightened the display boards, wondering if she'd gone too far with her concepts. She'd abandoned conventional beauty advertising completely, creating something edgier and more authentic than Luminance had ever produced. The creative team filed in gradually, art directors, copywriters, and account managers taking seats around the sleek conference table. Julian arrived last, his expression neutral as he nodded briefly in her direction before taking his place at the head of the table. "Let's see what our intern has brought us," he said. Gesturing for her to begin, Dahlia swallowed hard and launched into her presentation. "Luminance has built their brand on the promise of transformation," she began, revealing her first concept. "But their current advertising feels disconnected from their sustainability claims." She walked them through 3 campaign directions, each challenging beauty industry conventions while highlighting Luminance's natural ingredients. Her final concept featured diverse models in natural settings with minimal retouching, their skin textured, freckled and real. "Beauty brands promise perfection," Dahlia explained, her nervousness fading as she spoke about something she genuinely believed in. Luminance could stand apart by promising authenticity instead. When she finished, the room fell silent. Julian studied her boards with an inscrutable expression, tapping his pen rhythmically against his notepad. "It's completely off-brief," said Warren, the account director, breaking the silence. "Luminance expects aspirational imagery. This is almost documentary style." "It's also brilliant," countered Olivia. "Gen Z is tired of filtered perfection. This feels honest." The team debated while Julian remained quiet, his gaze moving between Dahlia's concepts and her face. Finally, he held up his hand, silencing the discussion. "Dahlia, wait outside, please." Her heart sank as she gathered her materials and left the room, certain she'd misinterpreted the assignment entirely. She'd taken too big a risk, and now Julian regretted giving her the opportunity. 20 minutes later, the conference room door opened, and the team dispersed. Julian approached her, coffee in hand. "Walk with me," he said, heading toward the design studio. They entered the empty space, morning light streaming through the windows overlooking downtown. Julian set his coffee down and turned to face her. "The team is divided on your concepts." Dahlia nodded, bracing herself. "I know I deviated from—" "I'm not finished," he interrupted. "Half the team thinks your approach is too radical for Luminance. The other half thinks it's exactly what they need." "I agree with the latter." Her eyes widened. "You do? You took a risk, challenged conventions, and created something authentic. That's what we should be doing." Julian picked up her portfolio, reviewing the boards again. "There's refinement needed, obviously, but the core idea is strong." "Thank you," Dahlia said, relief washing over her. Julian set the portfolio down, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "I wasn't always the Ice King, you know." Dahlia winced at the nickname. "I really am sorry about that message." "Don't be. It was honest, if unflattering." He leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "When I started here, I was passionate, outspoken. Then I learned that in this industry, showing too much emotion gets you labeled as unstable or unprofessional. Especially if you're a woman, I imagine," Dahlia added. Julian nodded. "The higher I climbed, the more I controlled my reactions. Eventually, it became a habit." This glimpse behind the professional mask surprised her. There was a person behind that cool exterior, one with experiences and disappointments that had shaped him. "I'd like you to continue developing the Luminance campaign," he said, returning to his usual businesslike tone. "Work with Olivia on refining the messaging. I'll handle Warren and the client concerns. You're trusting me with this, even though I'm just an intern?" "I trust good ideas, regardless of where they come from." Julian checked his watch. "Weekly progress meeting in my office Thursday at 7. As he walked away, Dahlia realized something had shifted between them. Not friendship exactly, but a mutual respect had taken root. She'd glimpsed the man behind the reputation, someone who recognized value in unexpected places and perhaps had more in common with her than she'd initially thought. That evening, as Dahlia described the day's events to Phoebe over dinner, she found herself defending Julian when her roommate called him a corporate robot. "He's not what I thought," Dahlia admitted, surprising herself. "There's more there than meets the eye." "Careful," Phoebe teased, refilling their wine glasses. "You're starting to sound like you actually like the Ice King." Dahlia rolled her eyes, but couldn't entirely dismiss the observation. The line between professional admiration and personal interest was already beginning to blur, and she wasn't sure what to make of that development or whether she should be concerned about it. After hours, Thursday's progress meeting extended well past 9 o'clock. The Bluebird office had emptied hours ago, leaving Dahlia and Julian alone in his glass-walled office, surrounded by concept boards and digital mock-ups. The city skyline glittered beyond the windows, providing a backdrop to their creative debate. "The tagline needs work," Julian said, pacing slowly around the room. He'd discarded his blazer hours ago, his sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms marked with faint ink stains, evidence of his own design background. "It's too expected," Dahlia nodded, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I agree. Natural beauty, natural you, sounds like every other clean beauty brand." She tapped her stylus against her tablet thoughtfully. "What if we flip the script entirely? Instead of telling people what beauty is, we ask them." Julian paused his pacing, interest flickering in his eyes. "Go on." "A campaign built around questions instead of statements. What makes you feel beautiful? When do you feel most yourself?" Dahlia sketched rapidly as she spoke. "We feature real people answering these questions, creating a conversation rather than a declaration." A smile, a genuine, unguarded smile, transformed Julian's usually stoic face. "That's it. That's exactly what Luminance needs." He sat down beside her on the couch, close enough that she could detect the faint scent of his cologne. "Show me how you'd execute it." For another hour, they refined the concept, their creative energy building off each other in an unexpected harmony. Julian's incisive questions pushed her thinking further, while Dahlia's fresh perspective seemed to reinvigorate his approach. "We should eat," Julian announced suddenly, noticing the time. "I can't have my intern collapsing from starvation." "I'm not actually hungry," Dahlia protested, just as her stomach betrayed her with an audible growl. Julian laughed, a rich, warm sound she'd never heard before. "Your stomach disagrees. Come on, I know a place that delivers late." They ordered Thai food and spread the containers across the conference table, continuing to work between bites. The formal barriers between them seemed to dissolve with each passing hour. Julian shared stories about campaigns gone wrong, clients from hell, and his early struggles in the industry. "I almost quit my first year," he admitted, leaning back in his chair. "Got passed over for promotion twice, watched less qualified people advance ahead of me. What made you stay?" Dahlia asked, genuinely curious. Julian considered the question. "Stubbornness, partly. And I had a creative director who saw potential in me that I couldn't see myself." His eyes met hers briefly. "Sometimes you need someone to believe in your work before you can." The subtext wasn't lost on Dahlia. She felt a rush of gratitude mixed with something more complex, a pull toward this man who was so different from what she'd initially believed. "Your turn," Julian said, breaking the momentary tension. "Why graphic design?" Dahlia told him about growing up with a father who painted houses and a mother who taught literature, how she'd found her own path combining visual art with storytelling. "I want to create work that makes people feel something," she explained. "Not just sell products, but connect with the human behind the consumer." Julian nodded slowly. "That's increasingly rare in this business. Most people just want to climb the ladder, regardless of what they're creating." He studied her with unexpected intensity. "Don't lose that perspective, Dahlia. It's your greatest strength." Something shifted in the atmosphere between them, a recognition that transcended their professional roles. Dahlia felt her pulse quicken as Julian held her gaze a moment longer than necessary before abruptly standing to clear away the food containers. "It's late," he said, his professional demeanor reasserting itself. "You should head home." The spell broken, Dahlia gathered her belongings, unsure what had just happened or how to interpret it. At the elevator, Julian handed her a portfolio with the latest mock-ups. "Review these over the weekend," he said, his tone businesslike again. "But try to enjoy some of your Saturday too. Will you?" she asked impulsively. "Enjoy your weekend, I mean." A shadow of something, regret perhaps, crossed his features. "I have a standing date with client proposals and my drafting table." "That sounds lonely," Dahlia said before she could stop herself. Julian's expression softened momentarily. "Creative work often is." The elevator arrived and he stepped back. "Good night, Dahlia." Throughout her subway ride home, Dahlia replayed the evening in her mind. The creative connection had been exhilarating, but the personal one terrified her. Developing feelings for her boss, especially one as complex and guarded as Julian, was profoundly unwise. Yet she couldn't deny the way her perspective had shifted, seeing past the Ice King facade to the passionate creative beneath. Phoebe was waiting up when she arrived home, eyebrows raised at the late hour. "Another late night with Mr. Frosty? Should I be concerned?" "We're just working on the campaign," Dahlia insisted, avoiding her roommate's knowing gaze. "Uh-huh," Phoebe replied skeptically. "And that smile you're trying to hide is strictly professional, right?" Dahlia threw a pillow at her friend, but the question lingered. The boundaries were blurring, and she wasn't sure how to redraw them, or if she even wanted to. In just 3 weeks, Julian Hayes had transformed from intimidating boss to creative mentor to something undefined that made her heart race whenever he smiled. And that was dangerous territory indeed for an intern with just over 2 months left in her position. Crossroads. Luminant's presentation was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon in mid-July, marking the 7th week of Dahlia's internship. The campaign had evolved into something extraordinary, a series of intimate portraits and stories celebrating authentic beauty across ages, genders, and backgrounds. Dahlia had poured herself into the work, and Julian had matched her dedication, their late nights becoming a regular occurrence that neither acknowledged beyond the office walls. "You've transformed since you got here," Olivia remarked as they prepared the conference room. 2 months ago, you were hiding in supply closets to text about the Ice King. Now you're practically running the show. Dahlia smiled, arranging the presentation materials. "Julian's been a good mentor." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Julian, is it? Not Mr. Hayes anymore?" Before Dahlia could respond, Warren burst into the room, his expression unusually grave. "Meeting's postponed. The Luminant CEO just flew in from their Paris office and wants to see us tomorrow instead." "That's unusual," Olivia said slowly. Warren nodded. "And there's more. Rumor has it they've been talking to Prism Agency." The news hit Dahlia like a physical blow. Prism was Bluebird's biggest competitor, known for their sleek, conventional campaigns. If Luminance was shopping around, their unconventional approach might be in jeopardy. When Julian arrived minutes later, his expression confirmed the rumors. He dismissed the team but asked Dahlia to stay behind. "We need to prepare for all scenarios," he said once they were alone. "If Luminance is having doubts, we need alternatives ready." They worked through the night, developing a more conventional backup campaign while strengthening their original pitch. Around 2 a.m., exhaustion finally caught up with them. "Coffee break," Julian announced, leading her to the office kitchen. They sat in comfortable silence, too tired for pretense. What if they hate it? Dahlia finally asked, voicing her deepest fear. "What if I've led us down the wrong path?" Julian studied her over his coffee cup. "Then we fail magnificently on our own terms." "Easy for you to say. You won't be unemployed in 3 weeks." The moment the words left her mouth, Dahlia regretted them. Julian's expression closed off, the familiar wall sliding back into place. "Is that what this is about? Your next job?" "No, of course not," she backpedaled. "But my internship ends soon and I need to think about your future." "I understand." His tone was professional again, distant. You should go home, get some rest before tomorrow." The elevator ride down was painfully silent. The connection between them suddenly fractured. Dahlia spent a restless night replaying their conversation, frustrated by her inability to express what she really meant, that she was afraid not just of failing, but of leaving, of losing whatever undefined relationship had developed between them. The next morning brought new complications. Dahlia arrived early to find Theo Garrison, Bluebird's CEO, in Julian's office. Through the glass walls, she could see them engaged in intense discussion. Olivia appeared beside her, coffee in hand. "Big day," she said quietly. "Oh, and heads up, there's a woman from Prism asking for you. Rebecca something. Says she has an offer you should hear." Rebecca Chen, Prism's talent director, was waiting in the lobby. "Dahlia Winters," she said with a practiced smile. "Your work on the Luminance campaign has impressed us. We'd like to discuss a junior designer position at Prism, starting immediately after your internship." The offer was everything Dahlia had dreamed of: creative freedom, substantial salary, benefits, everything except working with Julian. "Think about it," Rebecca said, handing her a business card. "We'd need your answer by Friday." Dahlia tucked the card away, her mind racing as she headed toward the conference room where the Luminance executives were gathering. Julian intercepted her in the hallway, his expression unreadable. "Theo wants to speak with you after the presentation," he said. "Apparently, Luminance specifically requested to see the intern who developed the concept." "Julian, about last night." "Not now," he cut her off. "Whatever Prism offered you, we can discuss it later. Right now, we need to focus on saving this campaign." The presentation itself was a blur. Dahlia spoke passionately about authenticity in advertising, while Julian masterfully addressed the client's concerns. When they finished, the room fell silent until Luminance's CEO, Vivienne Laurent, leaned forward. "It's provocative," she said in her French accent. "Risky, possibly brilliant." She turned to her team. "We need to discuss privately." As the Bluebird team filed out, Theo gestured for Dahlia to join him in his office. Julian caught her eye briefly, something like regret flickering across his features before he turned away. Theo's offer caught her completely off guard. A permanent junior designer position at Bluebird, working directly with Julian's team. "He recommended you personally," Theo explained. "Said you have a unique perspective the agency needs." Dahlia left Theo's office in a daze, the crossroads before her clearer than ever. Prism offered prestige and security, while Bluebird offered Julian. The thought crystallized a truth she'd been avoiding. Her feelings had grown far beyond professional admiration. She found Julian alone in the design studio, reviewing the Luminance materials. "I hear congratulations are in order," he said without looking up. "Theo made you an offer." "Yes, and so did Prism. That got his attention." "Impressive. They're a good agency." "Very conventional, though," Dahlia said. "Not much room for authenticity." Julian finally met her gaze. "So what will you do?" "I don't know." Dahlia took a deep breath. "It depends partly on what happens with Luminance, and partly on other factors, such as—" The intercom interrupted before she could answer. "Julian, Dahlia, Luminance is ready with their decision." They walked side by side to the conference room, standing at another crossroads, professional and personal, with no way to know which path would lead to regret and which to fulfillment. All Dahlia knew was that whatever came next would change everything between them, for better or worse. New beginnings. Vivienne Laurent stood as Julian and Dahlia entered the conference room, her elegant posture commanding attention. The Luminance executives flanked her, expressions carefully neutral. "We've reviewed both presentations," Vivienne announced. "Bluebirds and Prisms." She paused, creating a moment of unbearable suspense. Prism's campaign was precisely what we asked for. Polished, aspirational, beautiful. Julian tensed beside Dahlia, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the back of a chair. "Your campaign," Vivienne continued, looking directly at Dahlia, "is what we never knew we needed. It's uncomfortable, honest, revolutionary." A smile transformed her severe features. We're moving forward with Bluebird." The celebration afterward was subdued for Dahlia, the looming decision about her future dampening her joy. She observed Julian across the room, laughing with Theo and the clients, occasionally glancing in her direction with an expression she couldn't interpret. Later that evening, after the clients had departed, Julian found her in the design studio, packing up her materials. "Quite a day," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Luminance is thrilled. Theo is ecstatic. You've essentially secured your career, whichever path you choose." "I still don't know which one that is," Dahlia admitted. Julian nodded, then surprised her by closing the door behind him. "Before you decide, there's something you should know." He hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. "If you stay at Bluebird, you wouldn't be reporting to me." "What? Why not?" "Because I've recommended restructuring the creative department. You'd work under Olivia's team, not mine." Dahlia felt a pang of disappointment. "You don't want to work with me anymore?" "That's not it." Julian ran a hand through his hair, his composure slipping. "The opposite, actually. I want options that aren't available if I'm your direct supervisor." The implication hung in the air between them. Dahlia's heart raced as Julian crossed the room, stopping just short of where professional distance ended. "I've spent 7 weeks trying to maintain appropriate boundaries," he said quietly, "even as I found myself looking forward to our late nights more than anything else in my day." Dahlia took a steadying breath. "I thought I was imagining it. The way things changed between us. You weren't." Julian's gaze held hers, open and vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. "But I can't and won't pursue anything while I have direct authority over your career. That wouldn't be fair to either of us, so you've been restructuring the entire department just to, what, ask me to dinner?" A smile tugged at Julian's mouth. "It was an organizational improvement that happened to solve a personal dilemma." Dahlia laughed, the tension breaking. "That's the most Julian Hayes solution possible. Is that a yes?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. "To dinner or to staying at Bluebird?" "Either, both." Dahlia considered her options. Prism offered a clear, conventional path forward. Bluebird offered uncertainty, challenge, and the chance to continue building something that had only just begun, both professionally and personally. "I need to think," she said honestly. "Not about dinner, that's an easy yes, but about the job. I need to make that decision for the right reasons." Julian nodded, respect evident in his expression. "I wouldn't want it any other way." 3 days later, Dahlia sat across from Rebecca Chen in a sleek Prism conference room, declining their offer. The same afternoon, she accepted Theo's proposal for a junior designer position on Olivia's team. With one modification: she wanted to continue contributing to Julian's projects on a collaborative basis. Their first official date took place at a small Italian restaurant far from the office, without the pressure of deadlines or professional hierarchy between them. They discovered new dimensions to their connection. Julian's unexpected passion for vintage motorcycles, Dahlia's collection of obscure art films, their shared love of architecture and travel. "I've never actually dated a colleague before," Julian admitted over tiramisu. "It's terrifying," says the man who restructured an entire department rather than admit he liked me, Dahlia teased. "I prefer to think of it as thorough problem-solving." His expression grew serious. "But if this doesn't work out, then we'll handle it professionally," Dahlia finished for him. "Like the adults we supposedly are." 6 months later, the Luminance campaign launched to critical acclaim and record sales. The success cemented both Dahlia's reputation as a rising star and Bluebird's position as an agency willing to challenge conventions. On the night of the campaign's 1-year anniversary, Julian took Dahlia to the rooftop of the Bluebird building. The city sprawled below them, a landscape of lights and possibilities. "Remember that text?" he asked, taking her hand. "The one about the Ice King who hadn't smiled since 2010? Dahlia groaned. "Are you ever going to let me forget that?" "Never," Julian laughed. "It was the most honest feedback I'd received in years." He pulled her closer. "And it changed everything." "For the better, I hope," she said, leaning into him. "Definitely for the better." Julian's expression softened, the walls long since dissolved between them. Who would have thought a misdelivered message could lead to this? Dahlia smiled up at him, thinking of the many paths that had brought them here, professional respect evolving into friendship, friendship deepening into love, all because of one embarrassing mistake and the courage to be honest in its aftermath. Sometimes, she said, the wrong message finds exactly the right person. As they stood together under the city stars, Dahlia reflected on how their story had unfolded, not in grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but in small moments of honesty and vulnerability. Their relationship, built on mutual respect and genuine connection, had transformed both their lives in ways neither could have anticipated that first day in his office. It wasn't just a new beginning for them professionally or personally, but a reminder that the most meaningful connections often start when we're brave enough to let our guards down and reveal our true selves, even when it happens by accident.